Hello everybody, welcome. Thanks for joining us and taking the time here today. Thank you, Adriana. You're over in Canada, so it's Friday night just after 8 p.m. for you. We're very pleased that you're here. Thanks for joining us. Let's see. Nikki, Karen, Beck, Adriana, Angie. There's quite a lot of other people. They might come and go as we move through this masterclass. Saturday mornings sometimes are full of sports for the kids, but we do our best to try and accommodate everybody. So I'm going to hand it over to Angie Dello very shortly, and she's going to take control of the screen. This is Angie, everybody. Say hi, Angie.
Hi, everybody, and thank you for allowing me to come and chat to you guys this morning.
So what we're going to do is we're probably going to take around about an hour or so all up. So Angie's going to talk to us for a little bit, and then we're going to open it up to questions and answers so that we can help you with anything that comes up for you at any time. If you do have any questions, you'll notice that there is a group chat box that I've started where I've welcomed you. If you have any questions throughout Angie's presentation, then please type it in the chat box so we can address it at the very end. Otherwise, if you think that you're going to remember your question, then when we get to the Q&A at the very end, then you'll be able to put your microphone and videos on then, and you can ask away and we can answer live. We're just going to keep everybody's videos off throughout so that this is Angie's first time using Zoom. So just so that we don't scare her and show her all our faces while she's presenting, we're just going to keep them off for now, but we can turn them on at the end when we have Q&A. So Angie, I'm going to turn it over to you now. I've already given you control so that you can take over this screen and you can set it to play. And I'm going to sit back and let you do all the work.
Thank you. So thank you, everybody. And so I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about what I do, how I do what I do. One of the techniques I'm trained in is NLP, and I know you guys are quite interested in that. And so I want to chat about NLP today, some of the techniques I use with my clients, and I guess maybe some of the effectiveness, and tell you guys a few stories along the way as well. So I wanted to start with, that's my website, by the way, if you want to have a look at that at some stage. So I actually grew up in New Zealand, so some of you guys might pick up on my accent. I've been in Australia for 14 years now, and I live in Toowoomba, so I'm in the same town as Vicky, which is fantastic. And so I've been running my own business for 9.5 years now. So it started out very slowly and it grew over time. And so now I pretty much run it full time. Over the last probably 6-7 years, I became the trainer level of NLP, or neuro-linguistic programming. Trained in hypnotherapy. At the very basic level, by the way, you can do clinical hypnotherapy. I'm not trained in clinical hypnotherapy, and I've got a diploma of community services, the diploma of business management, and I've just completed a diploma of counselling. And there were several reasons for doing the counselling qualification. One of them was to gain those extra skills in working with people particularly. I initially was very against counselling. I didn't like the model of it. And but then as I started to see it a little bit more, I was able to see how I could integrate some of those skills. The coaching model and then the counselling model are polar opposites from each other. How you work in counselling practice is very, very different to how you work with coaching. And I've learned that that was a real challenge for me when I actually did the study, but I'm at the end of it now. I take the bits that I need and leave the other stuff behind. So these are my two children, Cameron and Ruby. And the reason why I've actually put them in here is I want you guys to know I am a parent. Cameron is 13, Ruby is 10, and I've been able to manage my business with my children. Yes, it's a struggle at times. but what I've been able to do with them is involve them as much as possible in my business, so that they understand that when mum's working, sometimes she needs that quiet space, and they just know how to work with me. I actually work from home. I live in quite an old house, and it's like this little tiny little sunroom off the side of my house, and sometimes I have to work and the kids are home, so they end up being out the back of the house, and they just know the rules. They know what's required of them, and they're quite happy with that. To them, they kind of love it sometimes because they get to go on the technology, and look, that works for them. But it's definitely doable with children, and so if any of you do have children, I just want you to know it can be possible to run your business with children. I am now a single parent, and so yeah, there are some days that are difficult. The kids just know what I need to do. My journey of how I started, it was really interesting. I was in New Zealand, and I had started with Toastmasters, that's right. And one of the guys at Toastmasters, obviously I needed to learn to get that confidence around speaking. And one of the guys spoke about NLP, and that was my first introduction to NLP. And I just went, wow, like you can clear up fears and phobias. And I had this massive fear of deep water, and I actually went and had a couple of sessions with him, and I tell you how bad my fear of deep water was. I could not look in diving pools. And so I had 2 sessions with him. He did a process called collapse anchoring, and I went then, and so over a period of the next 2 weeks I went to the swimming pools. I could look in the pool. This is the diving pool, by the way. I could then hop in the diving pool. So each time I kind of progressed as I went through over that period of 2 weeks, and I ended up jumping off the diving boards and actually looking under the water with the goggles on. I'm still a little bit hesitant around water, but see, I love water and I love water skiing, and I really wanted to overcome this fear, and that was my starting point. I was working for Canteen in New Zealand, supporting people with cancer, and I had a lady come in and she volunteered to support us, and she was an NLP practitioner, and we got chatting, and I just went, wow, I love your work. And one day I went and had a coffee with her, and she could see I was actually training for a full contact fight tournament, so I was doing martial arts at that stage, and it was probably about 4 days out from it. I was unwell, I was a negative thinker, and I think she just picked up that I wasn't in a great space at that stage. And she did the anchoring process with me. And I walked out the door that day, and I felt like I had shed a skin, probably a bit like a cicada. That night, I felt better within myself. The next day I woke up, the cold was gone. It was a massive turning point for me, and I just went, something's in this stuff and I've got to know more. I went on to the tournament and had fought 2 grades higher than myself, or 2 people that were grades higher than myself. I won 1 fight and lost 1, but I tell you what, it was just awesome. My whole approach to it completely changed. So that was kind of my introduction to NLP. Came over to Australia, and I had the children, so they were quite young, and I ended up training with Quantum Change. So I did my basic NLP with them, walked away and went, I do not understand this at all. I don't get it. I know there's something in it, but I don't get this. And then I went to a Chris Howard weekend. So it was a 3-day weekend, and he wasn't teaching NLP, but he was promoting his programs. And just the way that he taught what he did that weekend, I went, okay, I've got it now. And I actually went on and did the rest of my training under the Chris Howard training program. So that's kind of how I started, and it just built up along the way and over the years. And then the Diploma of Community Services came, and the Diploma of Business and Management. And I just added those skills to my, I guess, my foundation. And that's how my business started building over the years. So it was certainly not a huge thing right from the start. It just progressed. As I grew, the business grew. Let me just see what else. Yeah, you like that?
Because I think as practitioners, coaches, or any kind of change helper or change maker, we're always constantly learning and growing ourselves. So we can never think that we need to know all the answers. It doesn't serve us to say, you know, who am I to be able to do this? You know, I don't have enough experience, or I don't have enough of this, or I don't have enough of that, or that person's got such a beautiful website, or you know, fantastic message. How can I compete with that? It's about following your own journey and your own path, and trusting what you've already learned thus far in life to help move you forward. And you're always going to be learning and growing. And one of the beautiful things is you get to actually share what you learn with the people that you come into contact with and work with. And no, not all of those things are going to be perfect for everybody or beneficial for everybody, but we still get to share them with the people that we work with.
Absolutely. And no two NLP practitioners will be the same.
Like no two coaches are going to be the same. Own your uniqueness.
Absolutely. You bring your own flair, you bring your own skill set. And I'm not just trained in NLP and hypnosis, because I love Dan Millman, so I bring Dan Millman work in. I love quite a few, Louise Hay. So there's quite a few different people that I bring into my practice. So I think the biggest key as a coach is knowing that you have your own flair and enjoy that flair. That's what people attract to. They're attracted to who you are as a person. And that's really, really important when it comes to coaching. Well, that's what I've picked up anyway. So what is NLP? So it is neuro-linguistic programming. So this is some of the things I use to explain to my clients. It's neuro, the brain, linguistic, language. So it's all about language tools that invokes positive change at the conscious and the unconscious level. It works on the emotional side of things, the mindset, and the spiritual side. So it's very holistic in its approach. I thought I'd better delve a little bit further, and I got Peter Shaw's quote. Now, he was one of my trainers of NLP, fantastic guy. I've got a link for his website at the end. But NLP is the relationship between your thought patterns and how they affect the results you get in your life. The premise of NLP is that by changing your thought patterns and beliefs, you can dramatically improve the results you get in your life. NLP can work. What I learned over the years is NLP can work in hours and days and weeks versus months and years in other traditional therapies. And that's probably what I love the most about it. I could have done counselling for years about my fear of water, but in 2 sessions, pretty much nailed 95% of it. So it's very fast and effective in what it does. You'll need to do the thank you. NLP can be hard to explain to my clients. What's more important is getting them the results. They actually don't want to know how NLP works. I probably, out of the hundreds I've worked with, only 1 or 2 was like, how did you do that? What tends to happen is they'll walk out the door and 2 things will happen. They'll wonder what the heck just happened. And they will go, I know something's happened. I know I've made a change, but I don't know how that change is going to affect my life. So with my clients, I typically follow up with them up to maybe 4 days after the session I've had with them. And what it does is it reiterates what we've done. And because sometimes when we've made change, we forget what it was like pre that change. So I follow up with them. I don't over-explain the techniques. One of the ideas of NLP is we can blow the authenticity of the technique out by explaining it too much at times, if that makes sense. It has its own way of invoking change, and I don't tell them how that happens. because otherwise they won't get what they need to get to make the change in their life. So I don't over explain it to my clients. The idea of NLP is when we have a problem, we tend to box it in. So we'll put boundaries on that problem. Our boundaries are our reasons, our excuses, our rationales. And it might be someone's in a difficult relationship and their partner is very abusive to them. And the problem is they're being abused. But then the excuses might be, I'll be nobody without that person. So that's part of their boundaries around that problem. NLP is really about getting to the heart of the problem, defining the problem, because when you define the problem, you're able to find a solution. So if you imagine you've got a box and it's the problem, and we box that problem in, NLP makes the edges of that problem brittle through questioning, and then it moves them into a space of solution. When they're in the space of solution, they're able to look at it differently, think about it differently, release it, let it go by finding new solutions. And here are some of the questions that we use in NLP. What is the problem? How is it a problem? And when is it not a problem? So there was a time when we didn't have that problem. And so what NLP does is it almost pushes us back to that space when there was no problem. If we think about someone who's depressed or anxious, what happens is there was a time when they weren't depressed or anxious. The body and the brain already knows that. It's just that it's in the space of depression or anxiety right now. So what NLP does through those art of questioning is push them back to when they remember, and then they're able to gain solutions because of that. And my most favourite question, and do know that these are done in a particular order, what were you pretending to not know in order to have had that problem? This is actually a double negative question. And it really messes with their heads, and it's quite funny, but it's not funny at all. It's funny watching their brains and their cogs turning over as they're trying to comprehend that question, and they're going, I don't get it. And I'm like, that's okay, I know you don't get it, but just think about it for the now. So it's a really interesting question. So if you think about the problem analogy, how I use that with my clients is I'll put a little mat on the floor and I'll get them to step on the mat, and I'll say, I want you to think about the problem and really clearly define that problem, and then I want you to step on the mat and state the problem. So it's doing quite a few things on quite a few different levels. They're verbalizing it, but they're clearly defining it. And sometimes they think they have the problem, but actually it's something else that's underneath it. So this is really great questioning. And then I'll say, how is it a problem for you? How is it, what's it costing you? And they might say, it's costing me my self-confidence, with my weight, for example, and how I'm showing up at work. And I go, what will it continue to cost you if you don't change now? So it's really pushing them into a space where those edges are becoming quite brittle, and they're like, actually, I really don't like this problem. I really want to move from it. And it can be really tough for them, and it can be quite upsetting for some of them. And then I'll get them to step off the mat. And some of them can really resonate by, I go, just step far enough back so you're disassociated from the problem. And some of them, they say, oh, I can't. They're looking behind them to see how far they can move back. And for some, it's really heavy energy. And they're like, oh, thank goodness I'm not on that problem anymore. And this is actually the techniques around NLP, which is association. So I've made them step into the problem, and then disassociation. A lot of NLP techniques you'll hear, like timeline therapy, is the art of association, then disassociation. When we're in disassociation, we're in the solution space, and then we're able to find solutions. Once they've found those solutions, and I help them, I do not help them with the answers at all. But once they've found those, then I throw the what were you pretending to not know in order to have had that problem. And then that's when it really messes with their heads. And it's a good thing, because it then helps lock those solutions into place. So that's really kind of the art and the premise behind NLP work. Anchoring is, we have lots of anchors in life. We have visual anchors, so the sight of someone or something could be shared joy for one person, but absolute dread to somebody else. We have auditory anchors. Your favourite song makes you feel really good about yourself, and another song could remind you of a really sad time in your life. And we have smell and taste anchors. So we play with anchors in NLP as well. We play with values and beliefs, and there's so many handfuls of tools that we can play with in the NLP world. Some people train as NLP practitioners, and they might only work with one thing, like meta programs. And meta programs are the way we process information. And I actually worked with an employment agency here in Toowoomba, and with using meta programs with all of their staff. It was a beautiful project, and the cool thing on that level is financially it was really well. It was well paid, and it made a huge difference to my financial side of things. But it's so nice to be able to delve into particular areas, and many different areas, as a result of NLP. There's a company in the UK, it's called NLP for Kids, and so they've taken all the NLP techniques and then applied them to children. I actually only work with adults. The youngest has probably been around 18. That's only me though, that's my preferred method. I resonate better with adults. Others resonate better with children, or both. That's a preferred individual thing. So NLP believes that there was a time we didn't have the problem. So remember I said before, our brain knows how not to do the problem. What happens is we learn these behaviours, and every problem has a pattern and a sequence or a strategy, or what we might call an order that we do that particular problem. I use a lot of analogies with my clients. When I explain the conscious and the unconscious mind, I say the computer screen and the hard drive. And it's like, I get it now. So I kind of really break things down to my clients. I don't over-explain. But when I talk about problems, I talk about it's like a song on a record. Okay, if someone's doing anxiety, it's something that we do. We do sadness, we do frustration, we do it in a particular way, and there's sounds and sights and triggers that trigger those particular things off. I use the analogy, it's like a song on a record, and it just plays over and over again. And I want you guys to think about, are there things that you do over and over again in your life? And the analogy here, it's like a song on a record. Somebody might say something and it triggers you off, and you might have an angry outburst, for example. That's like a sequence, a strategy, or an order that we do a particular thing. So what NLP does, because my clients come in, they've got a problem, is it scratches the song on the record. And they're like, oh, okay, I get it. So I go, this technique I'm going to use is going to start scratching that song on the record. So then they are more apt to be open to that, and then we get the results that we need. I hope that makes sense to you guys. Does that make sense to you, Becky?
We've got to actually, all of the people who are in at the moment are the newer students who aren't quite to stage 2 yet. In stage 2, we start looking at mind-body tools. We move into understanding modern stress. We look at neuroscience for coaches and positive psychology for coaches. So at the moment, they're just coming to the very end of stage 1, which is all of the coaching foundations and approaches, understanding the holistic approach, the levels of being, the unconscious, conscious mind. And when they step into stage 2, that's where they're going to really learn about how the brain puts these associations via our external stimuli or via our senses, and takes that information and, according to our values, beliefs, previous experience, computes it in a unique way that we interpret it and make associations in the mind in our own unique way. So they've yet to come to the workings of how the brain actually does that. So how we're very spongy and absorbent in our subconscious mind between the ages of 2 and 7, how we have a lot of experiences in our early childhood, how we interpret what people say to us, what we observe, what we hear, how we feel in response or reaction to how other people have treated us, and how we then create our own truths around that then become associations in the mind as groupings of neurons, which are patterns, and what we can then do to disrupt the patterns as we get into adulthood. So there's a lot of parallels between how a holistic coach approaches change with someone and how NLP works with someone, which is why I really wanted to do this masterclass with you today, so we could give people a different look at how we can approach change with people on all of those different levels, not just working from 1 or 2 dimensions, but all of it. Because it's so important to address all of those different aspects of what makes us human and why we do the things we do and where it really comes from. And there's lots of different ways that you can do that. There's lots of different other modalities or approaches that you can use. Holistic coaching, in the way that we use our model and method, by understanding how the brain works and how it creates these programs, how to disrupt and interrupt it and change them on different levels, and how NLP approaches that. They're just 2 ways that you can go about it. But it's to give you a better understanding of how all these things can fit together, and that you can do more training if you want to. You can learn more about some of these modalities if you want to, if you think you need to. But it's just reassuring you that you're in the right direction when you learn these strategies and you understand how it all fits together. So it's great to give them a different perspective from how you approach it.
That's right. And I find with some people, they don't get it when it comes to NLP. And so then that's when I pull those other modalities out. Some of them just specifically want hypnosis. I'm like, I'm cool with that, because it can do the same thing. For others, I might use some very different work. I've got a belief poster that I've popped up in my office. And so it might be, we actually work through that belief poster. We create belief posters for the clients. We look at Louise Hay work, which is all about positive language. So in some of the sessions with my clients, I've got a set of Louise Hay positive cards, and we go through the cards and they write down what resonates with them. So I just use whatever fits with that person, and as I work with them, I get to understand them more and what they don't get. And the cool thing about NLP is it has so many different tools and ways that we can work with a client, that if one doesn't resonate with them, we can pick up one of the other ones. Sometimes a combination of all of it. I've got a set of Dan Millman cards, and it's just got a whole lot of his sayings on it. And so I go, okay, I want you to think about a problem, and then I kind of slide the cards out, and it's like, pick a card to help you with that. And I actually pick a card as well. And then it's like, okay, now look at the card. And so we discuss that, and I go, okay, here's the card I got. And they're like, oh, that's really cool. So sometimes it's really, really simple techniques. And sometimes it can be more traditional techniques that you use in your coaching practice. I think it's understanding your clients and working with them where they're at.
Very much so.
Yeah. So I actually use a lot of listening skills from the counselling model. NLP teaches us about the VAKAD. So V for visual, auditory, kinesthetic, and auditory digital. So typically we will lead with one modality and follow with another, meaning some of us traditionally might be more visual people, some of us might be more auditory. So it's about what they're hearing, the tone of the voice. Some of us are very kinesthetic people. You'll find people with anxiety and depression can tend to be very kinesthetic. So it's all about our emotions, how we feel about a situation. Auditory digital people tend to be, so that's internal processing. Does this make sense to me? And we'll typically see this in CEOs and people at high management level. We don't typically see CEOs as kinesthetic people. They will be more auditory digital. So in my practice, I've got a whiteboard, and I actually use the whiteboard quite a lot. And so they're getting that visual part of them, the auditory part. And then what I do is I listen to their language. So they might say to me, I feel really sad at the moment. And so what I do is they say, I feel really sad and no one's hearing me. And so I'll feed that back to them. And I'll say, I understand you're feeling really sad right now. And what you're saying is no one's listening to you. Is that correct? So I feed that back through to them, which what it does is it allows them to understand that I'm listening to them. And for a lot who come in, they just want to be heard. So they sit down and they tell me stuff that they have not told anybody else ever. And I tell you, you will hear stuff from clients that they have never told. And I had that with a client the other day. Some of the intimate personal stuff. She had been sexually abused as a child. So she's now in her 30s. I was the first person ever that she's told. And you will get people like that. And I'm like, right, okay, I've got to sit with this for a moment. And obviously I'd created an environment where she felt safe enough to be able to address that. It could have also been in her mind that she wanted, now's the time for her to actually address this in her life. So it's about listening to your clients and building those listening skills and building your skills around reflecting back to them so they know they're being heard. In NLP, I tend to only use a handful of techniques. They work really well. Sometimes I'll walk out of a session and go, I should have done more. But in fact, I already did do enough. As I've built my handful of techniques, the collapse anchoring, the timeline therapy, working within the value sets within clients, as I build them, I get really good at them. I get so good, I don't need to look at my book anymore. And that's a really cool thing. So then I go in my head, I've got to add something else. I've got to add something else. But in fact, when I look at it from their point of view, it already is enough. I've got to remember that those techniques I do are very profound at times and they work extremely well. And that's the same for you guys. As you start building your coaching practice, you'll have techniques that you see over and over again that have a profound effect with your clients. Don't sway away from what works really well in your business. Chris Howard said one day in one of the trainings I did with him, he says, do one thing and do it really well, and then add to that. And what I'd seen in the industry was, so I started out with quit smoking, and that's all I did. And I built the quit smoking practice. And I had worked with hundreds and hundreds of smokers. And I'm like, okay, in my own mind going, okay, I know this works really well. So, and I'm earning the money and it's flowing well. It's like, but what do I want to do now? And actually I wanted to work with people with anxiety. So I just started slowly expanding that. And now it's anxiety, depression, general life issues. I do have people with weight issues who come in and see me. I say to them, I work from an emotional and a mindset point of view. So I don't work from a food point of view with them. What I find is they know more about food than I do. And so I let them do what they know well, and I fix the parts that are a challenge for them. What I find with things like quit alcohol, quit smoking, I mainly use hypnosis with that. And I've got a method that's worked really well, and I've had some brilliant results with it. Same with gambling. When it comes to things like anxiety, depression, and weight issues, I use a combination of techniques, and it takes a bit longer. It's not clean cut when it comes to food. As you're aware, we have to eat again tomorrow. So it's about teaching them to have a healthy relationship with food, and have a healthy relationship with their mind and themselves for those with anxiety and depression. So that's kind of my premise of, as Chris Howard says, do one thing and do it really well. What I found with my friends and colleagues in the same field is they went too wide and too thin. So I kind of went thin and deep, as in I quit smoking, and I just got that going well, and then added the other stuff. What I saw with them by going wide was they never got the coaching practice that they wanted. And so that's my only advice around that. Everyone's going to be different. You might have a couple of areas that you feel comfortable with. I don't feel comfortable working with people with drugs. I find it's very complicated, and it's a long, long journey. And if they're dealing drugs and police are involved, it's even trickier. And so that's just an area I don't go into. For a long time, I didn't work with people with suicide. What I've done is I've recently done some suicide training, and I'll go back and do a bit more. Now that I've had that suicide training, I'd pretty much I'd be okay about working with people with issues around suicide. So I think you find your own way. Do one thing, do it well, and then add something else to it.
I'm glad you said that, Angie, because our February intake, we just did our live webinar yesterday for Module 9, which is Finding Your Niche. And we really help you dive deep into asking the key questions to look at your experience, your professional and personal passions, what you're really good at, what you've overcome in your life, what you know how to solve already. And we really tried to help our students to clarify who do they really want to work with, who can they best help with the information and knowledge they already have, so that they can find a niche to start doing really well. And it's okay if they have one or two other niches that they're interested in. We do a little mind body technique to choose your top 3 if you're undecided about which one you really want to go with, and to tune in, do some breathing, come into the inner wisdom of the body, and really allow the body mind to score out of 10 which one feels most true for you, or most like the one that you want to start with. And it's okay to change niches, but I like the idea of looking at it how you've just described it, Angie, is to pick one or choose one that resonates most with you on who you really want to work with, or what problem you love solving and helping people work through, and do that. Focus on that. Build your business around that, because that's a great starting point to help you be very clear on what kind of a coach you are going to be, on who you specifically work with, because it all follows into your marketing and your message and how you reach people. If you're trying to help everybody, which a lot of new coaches, new entrepreneurs want to do, we'd love to help everybody. But the reality is we can't help everyone as much as we would like to. We can help a select group of people, and there'll be plenty of them. We can help a select group of people that really need our help, that we know already how to help them work through their problems with. And so it's really great to focus on that first, get that practice up and running, and feel more confident about getting in there, doing the work, and understanding how you can apply those coaching techniques and those mind body tools and neuroscience hacks and positive psychology approaches, and understanding stress and how it all impacts each other and fits together, so that you can then expand on some of the other things that you're really interested in or passionate about, that you feel confident to start working with.
Yes.
So I like that. It's good advice.
And it is about building your confidence. Like when I first started with the quit smoking, I trained with Quantum Change in a specific quit smoking program. And I came out of that, and we paid a lot of money for that course. And what it did was it was 1 hour with your client and quit smoking. The hypnosis side of it was about 50 minutes. So I was spending 10 minutes with my clients pre-doing hypnosis, and my confidence just plummeted because one, they hadn't given us enough hypnosis training, and two, I just couldn't get it done in an hour. So then I was actually starting to feel really anxious about the system that they had taught us. So I spoke with a colleague at the training, and she had tweaked a couple of things. So I followed her tweaking, and then I thought, I'm going to add a few things of my own. Now it's a 2-hour session. I offer, it used to be a lifetime guarantee. I don't do that anymore. I offer 1 or 4 sessions with my clients. And to give you an idea on pricing, because I'm cool with doing that. So 1 session is $395 and 4 is $800. And what it did was, 1, it leveraged me from a financial point of view because a lot of them felt they needed that ongoing support. And 2, I was able to spend more time with them. And what that did was the success rate went higher as a result of that. In the 4 sessions, sometimes they'll come back and they'll go, I've quit. So this is the 2nd session. And I'm like, brilliant. And they're like, I want to reinforce it. Cool, we'll reinforce it today and we'll do some more hypnosis. Sometimes they're like, I'm totally never going back to cigarettes again. And, but can we work on this? I'm like, cool, absolutely. So what I'm doing is, 1, it builds my reputation because I'm happy to work with them, and 2, they're becoming a better person as a result of it, and they'll go out and tell their friends all about that, and so then it ends up you get more referrals as a result of it, and that's just that one service. In general, I offer 2-hour sessions. I find I don't get enough done in 1 hour. That's my personal thing that I do. Not everyone does that. So I offer 1 session, 4 sessions, or a whole day session. And that tends to work really well. If after 4 sessions they want to carry on, they do. But pretty much because this work is pretty quick, 4 sessions tend to be enough. And remember, they're 2-hour sessions. So that's 8 hours in total. How to look after yourself as a practitioner. I think this is probably one of your vital keys, and no doubt you guys will address this at some stage. What counselling did was taught me how to have a self-care plan in place. So my self-care plan, because remember, sometimes we're going to hear some things that really hit home with us. NLP teaches you to disassociate from your clients. Doesn't mean we're not connected to them, but we're not connected to the problem. If we jump in it with them, we can't help them. Yes, there's going to be times when the things that they say can really hit home with you and it's upsetting. And there's been times when I have shared tears with my clients. My self-care plan has to be in place to support me when I'm having those tough sessions. I had one with a guy, and he said, I got raped at the age by my cousin at the age of 7. And here I was, my son was 7 at that stage. And it just really hit home on my own values and beliefs. That took me a little bit to get my head around. This is where know your limits, know who you can work with and who you can't work with. Knowing that at times they might come in under the umbrella of anxiety, for example, and something comes up that is not in your capacity, like they've tried to commit suicide, and you have no idea on what to do with suicide. And this is where the self-care comes in place. So some of my self-care plan is I watch the Graham Norton show because I think he's funny. So it's about bringing that laughter back out, to limit my time on things like Facebook and social media, to sometimes not drinking alcohol because I know that that can knock my well-being as a result of drinking alcohol. And it could be going for a walk, sitting in the park, which is across the road. Do what resonates with you and know what your limits are. I know generally I book 2 sessions a day. If I'm pushed, I'll put 3 in, but I would never do 3 consistently. So remember, that's 2 hours each, so that's 6 hours. You'll know what works for you. If I do a whole day session, I take the day off afterwards. In this kind of work, it's very easy to burn out, and sometimes we don't even recognize our own burnout, and we just keep going and going and going. So I think it's one of the vital parts of being a coach in your field.
Yeah. We do actually take a look at self-care and protecting ourselves in different capacities. In Module 11, while we're looking at building our brand and code of ethics and things like that, we're also looking at our own self-care. And in after Module 4, which a lot of you are actually coming to for your first week of practical coaching, we have a special coaching interview from our series with Sam Starlett, who's a kinesiologist, and we talk about the power of energy, and we look at protecting your energy before and after you work with a client. And Sam shares a couple of really interesting experiences she's had working with different clients and how the energy's really affected her and what she's done. And we talk about a couple of different techniques that you can use to protect yourself. So for those of you who are up to practical coaching next week, you will have that in your online learning dashboard, and I will send it out to remind everybody to watch it because it's a fantastic hour of really understanding the energies and how they can intertwine when we're working with clients in any capacity.
So I wanted to finish with a funny story. So with hypnosis, I get many, many different types of people, or in my practice anyway. And I had this one guy, and he came in to quit smoking, and he was a guy, he had done drugs over the years, like he was a real tough nut image kind of guy. And when I do hypnosis for quit smoking, I take them down 1 year, 5 years and 10 years of what it will, I call it the high and low road, and down the low road of continuing to smoke. And anyway, we got to 1 year and he started coughing, and not uncommon that people will cough while they're going through the process of hypnosis. And then when he got down to 5 years, he was like really coughing, and like I was thinking, my God, what's going on with this guy? Like he was going red in the face and he couldn't breathe properly. And anyway, I thought, shit, he's reacting to this hypnosis and he has been highly susceptible to it. And I said to him, I thought, I'm not taking him down to 10 years. And I said, you know what's going to happen if you hit 10 years, don't you? He's like, I'm dead. And he was just hyperventilating. And it was just hilarious to go through, like you're trying not to laugh. And I'm like, oh my God, what's happening with this guy? And he quit smoking. And anyway, a couple of weeks later, I spoke to him on the phone. And this is, some people are so susceptible to it, because as soon as he heard my voice on the phone, he started coughing. So you do. So he had obviously gone straight back to that space on that low road. You connect with some amazing people with this. Some people, it literally changes their life, and you have such a profound effect on them, and know that you are very influential to those people. Sometimes you're their last resort, and they are asking everything of the world of you. Trust in yourself, know you're good at what you do, and that the techniques hold themselves, even though you might think that they don't, they do. If you trust, for me, I trust in NLP. I know it does what it needs to do. Even if I don't trust in myself, it will follow through and it will do what it needs to do. So I'm sure I could tell you lots of funny stories and stories of working with clients, but I know we are running out of time. This is my website. You are most welcome to have a look at my website and have a look at how I've set that website up. Peter Shaw is, if you want to learn more about NLP, Peter Shaw's in Sydney, and that's his website there, scaryandexciting.com. He's a no-nonsense approach to NLP. If you want results, he's a really, really cool guy, and he's very genuine and very authentic in his teaching of NLP. So,
awesome.
Yeah.
Great. We're up to Q&A. So we've got some comments and things in the chat box. Everyone is very welcome to turn your video cameras on now. And if you would like to ask a question, just put your hand up in the video or type into the chat box there, and then you can turn your microphone on so you can ask either of us a question and we can answer it for everybody's benefit. So while you're all turning your videos on there or chatting away, I'm going to read out a couple of the things in the chat box already. So Karen can't wait until her toddlers are older. Hello, Karen. Hi, Andy. You also said there, do you work online or is NLP only face-to-face? So, Angie, online or face-to-face?
No, all face-to-face.
It's one of those techniques you kind of have to be in person for most of it, yeah.
Yes, and what I've found is there's so much online stuff now that people are going back to face-to-face. I did write a book, a quit smoking book, and even though I gave people the book, they're like, I still want to come and see you. So, you know what, people now, they still want that face-to-face, and that's okay. I'm cool with that. I'm not saying it doesn't work.
So I've taken screen share off. Sorry, Angie, I've just taken screen share off so everybody can see who's talking now. So did you want to say anything more, what you were just saying? Face-to-face?
Some people do work online and work well online. It's just not my preferred method and not the preferred method of my clients. So,
yep. Okay. Who else do we have? Hi, Nikki, I can see you now. That's everybody who's got their videos on. Okay, so let's see, what else do we have here? Now, Karen said, I have had NLP done on me, so it makes sense to me. Good way of explaining it without being over technical, and it's another tool the holistic coach can have in their tool belt. Absolutely. You also made a comment there, Karen, about this is what I needed. I have tried the food approach, now I'm on to the NLP approach. A big thing about, because I actually specialize in eating disorders and food and body image, and a bigger thing on that is that our relationship with ourselves is really the relationship that we have with everything else in our life. So your relationship with food, your relationship with your body is always a direct reflection of the relationship you have with yourself. So it's a good idea to start in the mirror and really look at what you think about yourself and why that feeds into the relationship you have with food and other things. And Beck said, great self-care advice, Angie. Hi, Beck. Is Beck going to put her video on? Are you going to do that, Beck? Okay. All right. So does anybody have any specific questions about anything that Angie's covered today? Anything about where you're up to and how this relates to what you're currently learning? If you do, feel free to put your microphone on and ask away so that we can answer your questions. No questions from me, says Beck. Fantastic masterclass. I loved it and it resonated with me so much. Thank you for sharing, Angie. I'm short on time, so I have to go. That's right. Thanks so much, Beck, for tuning in. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Awesome. Thanks, says Karen. Great. Any questions from anybody? No from Nikki? Andy? Got any questions? No? Who else? Adriana. Hi, Adriana. Do you have any questions, Adriana? No? Adriana's watching all the way from Canada.
Oh, fantastic.
We have some students in New Zealand at the moment, Angie, which is your home country, but they're not with us today. Now, Karen says, awesome, thanks. What hypno training do you advise? Okay.
I did my hypnosis. So NLP trainings, typically they'll certify you in hypnosis as well. I wanted to do some more and really hone in those skills. So I went with the Tad James company. And Tad James Company, they did a weekend workshop that I attended. It was brilliant. I don't know if they still do it now, Karen.
They do.
They do. So,
Yeah, I've got some information I'll put into the chat box for you on Tad James. I do believe they do have the 3 weekends coming up, and there is one in Adelaide where you are, Karen. So I'll just find that while you talk, Angie.
Yeah. And look, they're really reasonably priced, and you can get quite a few skills. And then so I used to write my own hypnotic tracks, but now I buy them from hypnosisdownloads.com, and they are just fantastic. So they're hypnotic tracks. You can do audio and you can do PDFs. So I use the PDFs. They've got an app. So a lot of the hypnotic tracks I use now are there. So it's hypnosisdownloads.com. They're a UK company. And look, they're just specialists in their field, and why not source out from somebody else who's trained in that field of writing those hypnotic tracks. And then sometimes I pull some of my stuff into those tracks as well.
Okay, so I just got an email the other day from them, and I'm just looking at it now. They have a training in Melbourne in August, in Brisbane late July, and in Sydney mid-July. I did think that they had one in Adelaide, but it's not in this email that was sent to me. So they do still do them. Just to give you an idea on what they're charging at the moment, full price is $1,095 for the 3 days, but they have early bird seats available for $795, which is a $200 deposit to secure your place, and then a balance of $595. So, you know, you could do a 3-day basic hypnosis certification for $795 AUD. So that's with the Tad James at the moment.
That's really reasonably priced. I know mine was probably about 6 years ago, and I paid $595 or something. So look, they're really reasonably priced. If you're interested in NLP and you have a look at Peter Shaw's website, he's running an NLP practitioner training in June. Yes, it's in June. So don't be put off by his cheap prices, is all I say. In Sydney, he's running that in Sydney. He actually offered a special for less than $2,000. And I think the thing when you go and look at these trainings is just because it's cheap doesn't mean it's not good quality, particularly somebody like Peter Shaw. I mean, he trained under Chris Howard, and he's absolutely probably one of the best in the country. The difference between Chris Howard training and somebody like Tad James was Chris Howard gave all the techniques, and he gave all the scripts that we needed to practice in NLP, whereas Tad James doesn't. So you might walk away from Tad James' company, and I don't know if he gives scripts to techniques now, but when I was looking at it, he didn't. And so you can walk away and still go, hey, I really want to do this, but what now when it comes to working with my clients? And you have to try and figure that piece out, whereas the Chris Howard training didn't do that. It gave you all the scripts. So it's just like, read it, even if you have to read it verbatim, still works. So that was probably what I loved and what I particularly looked for when it came to my training.
Yeah.
So.
I've just put in the comments there for everybody, just the Sydney training. I've just basically copied and pasted it directly from the email that was sent to me with the information that has a phone number there, because Karen, you mentioned that you were interested. So that's for you if you wanted to go down that pathway. Yeah. So is there any other questions, comments that you have? No? Have you found it interesting today, everybody? Helpful? Yeah?
Yes.
Great, awesome. So we've got a few other masterclasses that we're planning in the works. We've got someone who specialises in law and protecting yourself, particularly online as a coach, the disclaimer that you need to have on your website, all those kinds of things that you need to have to protect you when you're working with clients and your limitations within your qualifications and your scope of practice. We've got someone who specialises in online courses and we're going to talk to her about how to structure them, what software and things you need. So we're putting together bits and pieces and more value for you all the time to have masterclasses every month. And we do also have, remember, our coaching interview series with other real life coaches who are out there doing their thing. You've got one that is released very soon, actually, with an embodiment coach and yoga teacher over in California. I just did another interview with a friend of mine who is a personal development coach and personal trainer over in Tennessee, over America. And he had quite an interesting background, which he talks about with suicidal thoughts and depression, and truly believing at one point in his life that there was a fault, that God had made a mistake when he was put together, and how he actually used that to turn his life around and change his story. So he very much works with his clients to change their story and realize how powerful their thoughts and their words are. So we've got those interviews coming up for you. They're sort of scattered in between the course in your learning area, where they're most applicable and most valuable alongside the course content, that module that you're learning. And when we've got these masterclasses like we've done today with Angie, that we'll be doing every several weeks, so that you can learn from more experts and practitioners and people who do other things that complement what you are learning and what you might already be doing, so that it's just all adding value to you to learn how you can best put your own business together and serve people, help them in a way that really resonates with you. So thank you so much, Angie, for being here today. Thanks so much for sharing your wisdom and your experience and great points to think about. Is there anything else that you want to share with anyone before we go?
Just in regards to your website, like if you want to have a look at my website, I've got my code of conduct on there, which I've pulled through from many different areas. And also under frequently asked questions, I've got what to expect in your session. And this might be really helpful for you guys to define who you are as a practitioner or a coach, and what you want to expect out of your clients in your sessions as well. So you can have a look at some of that stuff. Look, protect your website as much as possible. It's your biggest asset in your business. And I've had some huge issues with mine over the years on who actually owns it. It is now, it's a Wix website, and it is now in my account. So there's been times it hasn't been on my account and somebody else has said that's my website. Actually, no, it's not. It's my website, it's my content, it's my brand, and I want to have that control over that. You might choose something different, but at the end of the day, I want to put everything in place to protect my asset, because that's what generates me money, and that generates thousands of dollars every year. So yeah, look at protecting your website. There's huge issues around website ownership, and but if you can get it in your name, everything in your name. But yeah, have a look at my frequently asked questions and your code of conduct. And look, you can, if some of it resonates with you, take it, and I'm happy for you to do that. But then put your own flair on that as well. Okay, so yeah, enjoy, and that is your professional image, so make it as savvy as possible. Your website's not about you, it's about your clients. So it's not my website, it's it's my client's website, really. So
yeah, I like how you said that, because I actually forgot we do have someone who is amazing at websites, and we're going to do a masterclass with them.
Brilliant.
So that way you'll get somebody who knows what to remind you of when you are registering your domain, depending on the platform that you're using, how you can start with the basics and just have a couple of pages, and that's all you need to get your website up and running. So if you think about it, my personal practice, therapy practice on mindbodyfood.net, and the website for the Institute, mindbodyfoodinstitute.com, plus the actual subfolder, which is your online learning platform, all of those I actually built myself. Now that took me a lot of time, but when I first started my business back in 2010 or 2011, I didn't know how to write a code. I didn't know how to build a website. But I did my research and I figured it out, and I figured out how to do things. And now I can proficiently log in the back, and I can create anything I like, and I can write code, and that's great. And I like that sort of stuff. It's not for everybody, but if you know how to do the basics to be able to control your website, so that if you want to make changes, if you want to add a blog, if you want to add a new service or a product or a page of some kind, you have that control to do that. So we will have someone coming along and talking about that to give you the basics of setting up your website. And Wix, I think, is a free website to start with, at least. There's also Squarespace as well as WordPress. So there's a lot of different platforms. So we will do our best to get people in to talk to you about that and really help you in that process of doing that. Because it is really important to make sure that you own everything and make sure it's in your name. Now, we've got another question there. Do you do your own tax or have a tax accountant? Karen, is that for me or is that for Angie? Because I can answer that as well, so that you get from both perspectives. You can turn on your microphone, Karen, that's fine. Or if you want to type, you're typing? Background noise. Okay, yeah, go for it.
Yeah, no, I'd like to know for both of you, because once we start getting some income, which could be, you know, anytime from now, yeah, just like, what do you do to put aside tax? Like, what's your, yeah, procedures on that, I suppose? Thank you.
Yep. Okay. All right. So from me, I actually have a company. So obviously I'm over a threshold where I have to put money aside for GST, tax, things like that. So with every purchase, every payment from a client, from a student, anything that comes in, we have a sub account to our main account, and it's just a little offset account, which is specifically for every transaction that comes in. We allocate that to the person so we can square it off in Xero. I actually use Xero Online Accounting, which is connected to my bank accounts. It's also connected to PayPal. And so everything that comes in, Xero sees it. It also has all of the invoices that has been sent out. So it's just a matter of reconciling which one belongs to which person. Once that's done, there is a set amount of money for that amount specifically that is put into a little sub account, which is specifically for withholding. It's all for paying tax and things like that. I'm very lucky because my husband loves numbers. He loves figures. He loves running lists, and I'm not like that. So he actually checks on things every day for me. Sometimes I'll ask him, can you check on this? Or I'll go check on it myself. But he takes care of that. And I also have a retainer that I pay an accountancy firm every month. And in that amount that I pay them every month, we can email them anything we need done. We can email them any questions. We can email them things that we need for them to check up on, and they will do that automatically for us. So then quarterly, they'll have everything they need to do everything for us. And that wasn't how I started, obviously. You can earn up to $17,000 per year part-time, where you, as a sole trader, will not have to pay tax. As soon as you go above that, then you are looking at, you would have to pay tax as a sole trader. So those are things to think about if you already have a full-time or a part-time job, and what you'd like to do in how you want to get started, what kind of income you're looking to get from coaching, if you only want a part-time business, if you want to join it with what you're currently doing and blend it together, or if you're looking to move into full-time over time. So those are things that you'll need to be considerate of. As you get to modules 11 and 12, we do actually have complete business checklists for you in order of what you will need to do to set up your business the right way according to the legals of wherever you happen to be, so that you can go and check on those things to make sure you're doing it correctly. And you've got little checklists to tick off as you go through. We've also got all the outlines of how to set up your business, who you'll need to contact, what you'll need to do, and all of the different structures that you'll be looking at in time as your business grows, so that you have the awareness of what you might need to be doing at the right time so that you don't get yourself into any trouble. Now, pretty much one of the first things to give away to somebody else would probably be your accounting. If you don't have proficient skills in that, that's probably one of the first things that you'll want to do. If you get an accountant who works from home, it'll be cheaper than going to a firm. And that's what I did to start off. We did as much as we could, into the point where I was paying tax. And then we found an accountant who worked from home in their own business, who came to our place, sat down with us, made sure that our structure was where it needed to be. And then she did our tax and my business tax as a sole trader at that time until last year when we formed into a company. And obviously there's different things and processes and things like that. So it's just, don't try and overwhelm yourself too much with, oh my God, you know, if I'm, when do I have to pay tax, and when do I have to put things aside for all of this and that sort of stuff. It's something that gradually you'll work towards in time, most probably, if that's where you want to head. But try not to overwhelm yourself too much with all of that stuff. Just focus on what stage you're up to now and putting the strategies in place to support you now.
Thank you. And I can see I'm going to need to relook at this conversation, like perhaps in a year's time. But at the moment, I would really, because Angie is where I want to be this year, or perhaps this year and next year, just working as a sole trader. So just while I'm doing that, in case I do go over, I was just hoping, because it sounds like she just works for herself in her own business. So I'm just wondering, if she does that herself, or how she does it, because she's working more in the way that.
Yep. So that's kind of it's when you hit the 75,000 and above, that's when you want to sort of move from a sole trader to a company, so you don't get caught. You've got to pay more tax, which I hate. So I look at it and go, and then I go, oh, lovingly, I pay my lovingly. It's just energy in, energy out. That's all it is. It's okay. So Angie, I'll hand it over to you to answer that question. It's specifically for you now.
Sure. So Karen, I am a sole trader, and I am very, very basic with my accounting. I actually just work with a spreadsheet in Excel. I had a business mentor, and he actually helped me set the spreadsheet up, because I don't even touch the formulas, because I'll just muck the whole thing up. So it's not my area of forte at all. Like Vicky, I'm not a numbers person, I'm a people person, but I do work it all myself. It probably takes me about an hour a month to do my accounts at the end of the month. I have some years I'm really good at it, some years I'm really slack and just leave it. This year I haven't done much on my accounts at all. I have two accounts, my main account, my main business account, and I have a holding account like Vicky. So all my drawings out of my account are profit, so I need to pay tax on that, and that sits in my holding account. My accountant is like Vicky's, works from home. She's actually in Melbourne, and I love it a bit. She's very accessible, and it's very basic setup. She's happy with an Excel spreadsheet. I just email it through to her, send her documents she needs, and my accounts are done. So I don't put too much emphasis on that. I just work with her with what she requires from, obviously you've written a question, I can't see the whole question.
So she helped you set up that spreadsheet is what Karen's asking, and we actually have a spreadsheet template with formulas already created for you in modules 11 and 12. Thanks to my wonderful husband who loves doing that stuff. I don't. And we actually are going to do a live webinar with my husband, Craig. He is my marketing manager. He's got me onto TV and radio and all that kind of stuff. So we're actually going to do a live webinar with him so that you can pick his brains and ask him all these questions and stuff. We've also got a business plan template for you. So you'll have all of that. You'll have all of that.
Yeah. But let it build as you build, Karen. Don't stress too much about it. I'm very clean cut with my accounts. You know, my personal and my business side of things are very separate. Some people don't work that way, but to me it's very clean and I like it. I can see what I'm earning and what my expenses are from a business side of things. Everyone's different. My business mentor helped me set the template up. He helped with some categories, but it was more working with my accountant. And so we were working on the same language. I might use different words, but she understands my business now. So yeah, just have fun with it. You know, don't make it a chore.
Okay, I'm just about to screen share so you can see. Can you all see that? So this is a template of your income coming in, your expenses down here, It's all the things that you're most likely going to have to start off with, or things that you'll be building on over time. And your basic things, if you're going to work from home, or even if you do have room hire for workshops or for rooms working out of different practices or other centres. So it's all formulated, everything is done for you. And this is just the basic cash flow, which will be adequate for your accountant. You can even take it to your accountant and ask them, you know, is there anything missing off here specifically for my unique practice and for what I'm doing? And they can amend it, or you can amend it, and it's all calculated, ready to go. And you'll have that. That comes in modules 11 and 12. So you'll have all of those things plus checklists and everything that you're going to need to have everything up. And by that time, in stage 3, you'll also know your niche, what your marketing message is, or your elevator pitch, as people like to call it, because you need to know how to tell people who you are and what you do and who you help, because they're going to want to know. You're also going to create your own 12-week plan or 12-week program for your ideal client. And I'll give you a workshop template for a day, whether you want to do it for a half day or a full day, so that you've got a template there to create a workshop for your ideal client and a problem that you want to work with them to help solve. And once you have a 12-week program, that's a 12-week program that you can use one-on-one coaching. You can use it in a group coaching program online or in person if you like doing group work, or you can also turn that 12-week program into a 2-day weekend. So it's completely up to you. It's versatile. But if you didn't have to do it as a project in part of your studies, you probably wouldn't do it, because you wouldn't have a template. You'd be worrying about whether or not you would be doing it right. You'd be thinking, oh my God, is this going to work? So that way, at the end of the course, you're going to have those things already in place. You're going to have every structure in place that you will need to start working with clients, which you'll already be doing before you finish. So we're trying to give you as much help as we possibly can. And without all the BS or the fluff, you're getting straight to what you need to know and what you need to do to take action and move forward. So these things now might be freaking you out, wondering, how am I going to do them? You're not quite there yet. So just stay with where you are. Know that we've got your back and we've got you covered, and you're going to have those things really well explained to you and provided for you, so that you'll be able to take those steps as you come to them. Otherwise, you're just going to psych yourself out unnecessarily. Any other questions, anybody? No? Excellent. Okay. Well, if there aren't any other questions, I'm just reading what Karen's read. HLC is so good. I mean that's holistic life coaching. Is that what you mean, Karen? Yep. Thank you. Thank you. I just wanted to address it. I didn't realize we were going to address all that. Amazing. Also, excellent. So we've looked at all of the comments. Nobody else has any other questions or comments. So I think we're ready to wrap up today. So for everybody who wasn't able to actually make today live, there will be a replay. The replay link will be sent out shortly this afternoon, and that will be direct to view from Zoom. On Monday, we will have this replay uploaded and available for everybody to watch from YouTube. And I may put it into the online learning platform somewhere, or create a special page for our training videos. So you'll have a replay to watch, listen, and learn all over again. Okay. All right. Well, I can actually finish the entire meeting and shut it all down from us here. So thank you so much, everyone, for spending this hour and 20 minutes with us today. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Adriana, for staying up on a Friday night to be here from Canada with us. Thanks so much, Andy, Nikki, who else do we have? Karen, Bex had to go. Thank you very much for being here and watching our masterclass. If you have any questions for Angie, you do have her details that you can go to her website and get in touch with her there for anything specific. And of course, you can always get in touch with me or Ellen if you need help throughout your course. So next time we meet will be for our practical coaching, live coaching next Thursday night. And I look forward to that. So bring your A game. And your problems and your coaching skills, all of it. Just bring it all. Bring everything you've got. Okay, everyone, thanks so much for being here. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your weekend and enjoy your studies, and take care of yourself. Bye-bye.